Hi everyone, I'm Quinn from Quinn's Art, and I'm on the Art Journal of Design team, and today I have a more crafty activity that you can do with some of the Art Journal of boxes that come with your journals. So I first want to show you an example of what we're going to do. So here are my watercolor sets and my gouache sets. As you can tell, I have quite a few, and I don't really like this disorganized mess from the gouache, but I'm also running out of room in my current watercolor container. So what I'm going to be doing today is showing you how you can make your own watercolor or gouache or paint in general container out of your Art Journal of boxes. I know that Art Journal is coming out with some watercolors very soon, if they haven't already, and so this is for those of us who already have a ton of watercolors and want to do something with the ones that we have. And the best part is that the boxes are already so gorgeous that you don't even have to decorate the boxes, and we get to recycle. So I typically use these kinds of boxes to store my watercolors, since these are just jewelry sets you can find, jewelry container sets that you can find at hobby stores. And it works perfectly because the size is fits so well. But I recently got some larger gouaches and I just don't have enough room anymore to fit in one of these. And instead of buying more plastic and buying more materials, I decided I would instead recycle and reuse the things that I already have. So that's kind of what we're going to be doing today. So the materials that you'll need is, of course, an Art Journal box. I'm using the A5 size boxes because that's what works best for me, but I have created information so you can use any of the size of boxes. So you can use the traveler size or the B6 size. I think both of these are nice, especially if you do want to travel with your watercolor kits. They're just nice and small and compact. Or you can even go really big with the B5 size. This is B6, I can't remember if I said that right. This is the B5 size. It's huge for those of us who have a large collection. I might need to update my A5 ones to a B5 box in the future, but for right now, I only need an A5 box, and the A5 boxes I have are really pretty, including this box from the Messy and Bright collection that Art Journal had just released. So just choose which size box that you want, depending on what you have, or maybe what your watercolor needs are. You'll need paper, so some sort of heavy paper. So here I have a form of cardstock. I chose a lavender color because it's my favorite color. If you want to, so back to the B5 box, I have the B5 notepad from Arch and Olive. This paper is definitely thick enough. I got the Neapolitan colors, and so I'm actually going to be using some of the black paper for my second box. But I do want to let you know, so the B5 notepad comes in the B5 size box. However, it's not ideal to use the B5 notepad for the B5 size box, simply because of the perforated edge. It won't fit from edge to edge on the box itself. But this is perfect for the A5 size box. So that's what I will be using. And then of course, you're going to need some form of adhesive. So you can have standard tape, which in my opinion is the best for a nice finish. So basically, whenever you tape the piece of paper together, if you have regular tape or even just a washi tape to cover the edges, it'll stop it from being caught in anything and it will not wear down over time. But you can always use double-sided tape. I have a typical roll here and then like a Tombow roll, or you can use glue dots, or like I said before, you can use washi tape if you'd rather. You need some form of adhesive. You need a ruler because there are specific measurements being involved, and some form of cutting utensil, whether that be scissors, or I will be using my X-Acto knife because you're going to be having to cut down the piece of paper to the size of your box itself. So technically the last material that you will need is a chart that I created. So this is on the blog post as part of the printables, but I will go ahead and show you now what it looks like and how to use it. So this chart is very clearly not to size, and I made sure to let you know that it's not to scale. This is just an example of how you're going to be folding your pieces of paper to fit inside of your box to create the cubbies. So for example, with the B6 size box, you can only have 4 cubbies. And so here you'll see the cubby width is the width of the actual cubby itself. So there's going to be 4 of them here. And so I've actually created a quick prototype to give you an example. So here's the B6 box. And so here you have the 4 cubbies. So I've already taped this together, but and at the end we'll glue it in. But as you can see, we have 1 height, 1 width, and then you're going to be gluing 2 height lengths together, 1 width, 2 heights, 1 width, 2 heights, 1 width, and 1 height. And so if you follow this chart right here, it'll show you with the exact measurements that you'll be needing to have. I've included at the bottom both the imperial measurements and the metric measurements. So for those of you who prefer to use inches or prefer to use centimeters, I found that centimeters tend to be a bit more exact, but the imperial measurements also work. So I've included the total paper length. So that's the piece of paper that you will be taking and gluing or taping together to make a total paper length, the width, which is just the width of the box, and then the cubby height and cubby width. These measurements are important as you go through this chart to make sure that you make the right measurements. I've included ones for the all of the different sizes. So the A5 and traveler size boxes both have 6 cubbies. So the chart is the same, but if you look here, the measurements are slightly different for each one. And then I've included the B5 size box as well. So the B5 size box will allow you to have 8 cubbies, and you can just follow this chart and use this information. So you'll see on some of them, there's an extra section. So because these measurements aren't in perfectly kind numbers, there will be some extra at the end. And so this you will just add to the last cubby. So by adding it to the last cubby, it'll be flush against the edge. And I've even made a note here. So last cubby width plus the extra length. So if you see extra right here, remember to add that to the last cubby. So this is available, like I said, on the blog post, and it is also very easy to navigate and use, hopefully. And so, like I said, this is not something that you can print and just fold it and then fit it inside of your box, because none of the lengths will fit a printer-sized piece of paper. However, it is just a chart for you to understand how you'll be folding each of these pieces. So, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So like I said, I am going to be using A5 sized boxes, and I will be using this cardstock for my first box. So I love these boxes from the fall collection. I just love the craft paper look, and it's just so beautiful, and it just reminds me of watercolors themselves in a way. So I'll go ahead and open this. But we're going to be making the little cubby lining to fit inside of this box. So if we go to the chart, you can see I will be using the metric for this tutorial just because, like I said, it's a little bit more exact and I kind of want that right now. So the total paper length for the A5 journal needs to be 51.5 centimeters. So this will be a little bit less than 2 printer-sized papers put together, so 8.5 by 11. So both of my cardstocks here are 8.5 by 11. And so I will go ahead and tape them now. Okay, as you saw, I taped both sides. I'm using just normal tape. It's not the most beautiful thing, but I'm going more for structure than beauty here. But you can use any type of adhesive to put the 2 pieces of paper together. So now I'm going to measure out the 51.5 centimeters and then cut along that edge. And then if you also look, I've included the width, so the paper width. So this is the width of the inside of the A5 box, and so I will be cutting my paper to that width. So on the length, I'll be cutting to 51.5, and then on the width, I'll be measuring to 14.5 and then cutting at that point. So I now have a piece of paper that's the correct width. As you can see, it fits quite nicely into the box. but now it is a very long length. It is far longer than the actual box itself because we're actually going to be folding it. So following the chart and using the measurements that I provided for you in the chart, you can go ahead and measure out the cubby heights and widths. So the cubby heights for the A5 size are all 2.5 centimeters and the cubby widths are all 3.5 centimeters. And so I will be measuring that out since there are 6 cubby widths. Since there are going to be 6 cubbies, I will be following the A5 size chart. So go ahead and make the measurements. So I'm using just a pencil to mark on each of the edges so that'll make it easier when we fold. So go ahead and mark your paper now. So just as a reminder, this cubby here is actually larger than the rest of them. And so this is because there was some extra length left over. So this one's actually 1/2 centimeter larger than all the other cubbies. So the last cubby will be larger. So just keep that in mind whenever you're making your measurements. Okay, so now I have all the parts measured out, following the pattern as provided by the chart. So I have cubby height, width, height, width, height, width, height, width, height, width, height, width plus extra height. So now what you're going to do is you're going to be folding along each of those lines. So I only marked the edges of each one, but I marked it on both sides, so I can use those as anchor points as I fold. So go ahead and fold along each of those lines. Every line needs to be folded on. So after all that folding, you'll be left with this very curly little monster. So now we're going to be making this into something that'll fit into your box. So we're going to be kind of folding it in a unique style. So you're going to want all the cubby heights to end up going up. So starting on the left, you're going to have the cubby, so that C, it's kind of like standing up like this. And then every other time there's 2 cubby heights, you're going to push them together. So you kind of get like this triangle looking thing. You're going to push them together like that, with the cubby width, the long piece on the bottom. You're going to do that for each one. So if you turn it to the side, it should look something a little like this. So we're going to end up actually taping these together so they stay together, but first I just want to test to see if it fits inside of the box. So kind of scrunch up it so that the little cubby heights are all together, and see if it fits. So it is a little bit long. I think this box is just slightly smaller than the other ones. And so because there's a little bit of extra, I'm going to look at the longer cubby at the end here. I'm actually just going to fold it up a little bit more at the end. See, this is why fitting at the end is important, because there's this slight variation sometimes with these boxes. Yeah, that fits way better. And so I can just cut off the excess and then move on. Okay, so you have 2 options when it comes to taping these pieces together. You can either put double-sided tape or glue dots on one side and then squish it together, or you can squish together and then just put a normal piece of tape down along the bottom. I will show you how to do both of them. So with normal tape, you'll hold the 2 pieces of paper together, and then just along the bottom here, you will put the piece of tape. I'm going to put another one just for a little bit more strength. And this is going on the bottom of the box, so you don't have to worry about it looking nice or looking pretty. If you have a roll of tape, then you can just put it along one of the sides. Gonna put a little extra towards the bottom. And all you have to do is pinch them together, and then the tape should hold them together quite nicely. So the sides will start to look a little bit cleaner. But I'm just going to keep using the double-sided tape. I'm actually going to use this roll because I have a lot of it and want to get rid of it. But any sort of adhesive, you could even use glue if you would like to. It just, glue takes a little bit longer to dry. So you should now have something that looks like this. It's slightly curling in, but that's okay because whenever you put it in the box, we will be gluing it or taping it into the box itself. But just to double check before you do that, make sure that it fits nicely and that you're comfortable with it. You're happy with each of the cubbies. And then you can go ahead and once again, you can take double-sided tape, you can take glue, whatever you want. I suggest just taping the bottom first and then taping the sides last, just so that the sides don't hit the sides as you're trying to put it in, making it more difficult to make it fit inside of the box. And there you go. You have your own little box with 6 individual cubbies for making your own little box. For all of your paints or watercolors or pencils, if you have any that will fit inside of here, it's entirely up to you what you think will fit inside of here, what you could use this for. And now for my favorite part, taking this and putting it into here. And so I now have a box that will fit all of my watercolors, and it's using my favorite color of lavender in the process. And it's got this beautiful cover because it's just an Arch and Olive box. And now I can carry it around, I can move it, and because I used the stiffer cardstock paper, it should hold up very well. So yeah, I now have a nice little box for my watercolor set. And here you are, a second completed little box of cubbies for my gouaches. So I will go ahead and fill this in now. That is how you can create your own box set for your gouaches or your watercolors. And I want to thank you all for joining me on this adventure. And I hope that if you make your own little container sets, that, like I said, you'll tag me and Archer and Olive so that we can see your beautiful creations with your own Archer and Olive box. So thank you so much, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day.